Hi everyone, I'm David Kelly, Program Director for the eLearning Guild, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to another Twist Conversation. Today I'm pleased to be welcoming Alex Khurgin from Grovo. Welcome, Alex.
Hi, David. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining me. I know we're going to be talking about digital learning and e-learning, but before we get started on our conversation, can you take a moment to introduce yourself to the people watching the video?
Sure. Thanks, David. So I'm the creative director and the director of learning here at Grovo. So my background is actually it's in philosophy and educational testing. I got started at Newton, the adaptive learning company. At Grovo, I help implement what we call Learnerfirst training method into our cloud-based training platform. So Grovo teaches digital skills to schools and businesses with 60-second videos in a really beautiful and efficient learning platform.
So you mentioned in your intro that you do learner first, and that's an interesting phrase to be using because when you think of the state of digital learning, a lot of what's out there, I don't know if you would call learner first. So can you talk a little bit about how you see the state of digital learning and e-learning, and what are some of the gaps and opportunities with the state of the industry right now?
Yeah, so I think there have been a lot of really good ideas with digital learning. Digital learning is obviously a relatively nascent field. I think that there's an opportunity now to kind of tie everything together in order to change behavior. So as far as the learner first side of it, that involves personalization. So creating at least some sort of a personalized environment, either through some form of adaptive learning, just giving the learner choices, even accommodating both people who are a bit more advanced and want to dive in deeper, or maybe people who are a bit more behind who need an opportunity to really drill down on fundamentals. That also involves creating a really engaging experience from the content, which you might want to make very short and have a high production value, and just having a generally consumerized experience within a platform. So that is both on the admin side and the learner side. Now I think I'm mentioning all these. I think they're actually kind of all fundamental to actually change behavior at this point. So it really is a matter of tying everything together. So personalization, engagement, active learning is another big thing. We think that too much of training is informational. There isn't enough that really focuses on changing behavior, giving people the ability to interact, to apply what they're learning with realistic practice, realistic environments that allow people, to solve problems, take tests. Even interactivity, as much as allowing people to browse and search for exactly what it is they're looking for, is a good step forward. And I think digital learning I think in general e-learning providers have struggled a little bit with implementing a lot of the learning best practices that we know work. Including really intelligent applications of microspacing and macrospacing. Duolingo, I think, is a great example. Will Thalheimer has mentioned them before when he's talked about microspacing. A really good example of a provider that does that well. But also doing macrospacing in an intelligent way that isn't just sending someone an email a couple months later or a survey a couple months later. So I think all of those things from the learner first perspective, a lot of it is kind of taking the best practices that consumerized companies from Silicon Valley have been learning in the last 10 to 15 years about how to build a really good product that is really engaging for people, that grows, that a lot of people want to share with each other and use all the time, every day. And also taking a lot of the best practices that training companies and trainers and people who have been studying learning for years have known, and implement those also into a digital context.
So there's a lot of elements that you're talking about, and I like the idea of tying all these together. One of the things that you mentioned that I know is a focus for Grovo is this idea of microlearning, that you specialize on these bite-sized nuggets and these short video segments. But can you tell me a little bit more about how that works? If they're so short, what can you really accomplish? So how does that microlearning work in your environment?
Yeah, so that's kind of the first hesitation people usually have with regard to microlearning. So microlearning, the definition, microlearning is also new, so the definition kind of changes. It's basically learning through short, focused segments. I think the thing to concentrate on isn't really what happens in that 60 seconds. It's kind of what happens in aggregate when you get a series of related 60-second videos, each reinforced with assessments that tie together in a particular way. So the learner kind of builds up their knowledge gradually, and this lessens the cognitive load on learners and makes it easier for them to see the whole picture. So rather than presenting a complex idea or a complex topic in a 30-minute session, or in some cases an 8-hour workshop, you have very focused segments that build up to that big picture knowledge. But it's just easier to get the big picture knowledge if you take it bite by bite. And then what we've experienced with it is, we actually started out producing 3-minute videos, and that ended up being too long. On the internet, when people are used to watching, a Vine video or reading a tweet and maybe watching a pretty short YouTube clip, even 3 or 4 minutes is pushing it. So we found that the sweet spot for us is 30 to 90 seconds long. For a lot of content, you can really break things down into those segments. As long as you follow those up with assessments, we see much better engagement, much better completion, much better retention of material, and then much better application after the fact in real performance situations. It's great. I mean, those are all the benefits for the learner. For the trainer, we advocate microlearning for anyone. We're a vendor, but for people who are creating training in-house, doing things with a microlearning method, it's faster, cheaper, and easier to produce. We make 15 new videos a day. People are always amazed at that. If you take a look at our videos, they're really high production value, very good videos, and we actually pump out 15 of them a day. And if something needs to change, you can easily swap it out because you have these really small files. It's just a lot easier to deal with smaller files in the CMS when everything is modular. It allows us to translate content more easily for a global audience. As mentioned, it gives you higher production value because if it's shorter, what's actually there can be better and more engaging. And then it's a lot easier also to track exactly what people are having trouble with and what they're excelling at because everything is really granular and already broken out. So you can see by concept and by granular skill how people are doing. And then finally, microlearning is great because it facilitates a just-in-time program. So for performance support, if someone is in a situation where they need information quickly, they're in the field, you don't want the performance support to interrupt the actual performance for too long. So I think people think about getting people access to something very quickly, but then the thing that they're actually looking at needs to be short enough that they can also apply it quickly. Without the interruption.
So you mentioned people who are in the field, and that one of the thoughts that I was having as you were going through that explanation was how we've changed the way we take in content as consumers. It's very representative what you're describing is how we handle content as consumers, and I know part of the reason that we have such a low attention span for what we're watching is we're watching on our mobile devices. A few minutes here while we're here. I'm online right now. I'm going to check something out. I'm going to watch a quick video, and it is very representative of how we're consuming content. But it also represents a challenge for a lot of developers in the sense of it's no longer just this screen that I'm used to working on in a desktop environment. Now I have to worry about tablets, and I have to worry about mobile phones and different smartphones and different dimensions. How does that come into play in terms of the way you develop your content in these video series?
Yeah, so I think there's some pushback in different organizations with regard to all of these new devices and BYOD policies being implemented. You have not only do you have tablets and smartphones, but you obviously have different platforms for each of those, different operating systems. So a lot of it starts with policies and attitudes. There's like a little bit of fear in there, but at this point, BYOD and people using all sorts of devices for work at all sorts at all different periods of the day. It's here. It's inevitable. I think a good approach is to pilot programs to do small rollouts. And also to give a lot of training up front on good safety and security practices and for devices in general and on the specific devices. So when you have a lot of different kinds of devices with a lot of different people collaborating, they're going to end up using some I might not have an iPad, but if there's an iPad at the office and I'm collaborating with someone, I might have to use it. So also teaching people kind of that platform flexibility where if someone's a Mac person, they can still jump in on a PC, and if somebody's using Android, they can still jump in on an iPhone. I think also designing responsively is a good idea. So apps are really great. It's really nice to have a dedicated app, but a responsive website will do in a pinch. So both designing things responsibly, such that they automatically work on all of these different devices in different sizes, and also choosing vendors that have responsive designs, and not just we have a website and then we have an iPhone app. But what are you going to do for the people that are accessing it through Android? So you need a solution that accommodates everything.
Excellent. Well, I know we've a lot of the principles that we've been talking about here, between the microlearning, the user experience, the responsive design, all these things are the foundation upon which you guys have built Grovo. So I know you're going to have a big presence at DevLearn this year in the Expo Hall. So if I'm going to be attending DevLearn, I'm going to be in the Expo Hall. What can I learn about Grovo by coming to your booth?
Well, a lot. We've put a lot into our booth. We're at booth 404. We have a very large booth that I don't think you'll miss. I think the theme of our appearance at DevLearn is the digital skills gap, and that's kind of what we're really focusing on with our product and with our content. So I'm also giving a presentation at DevLearn at 1 o'clock on the management stage, I believe, about the digital skills gap. And so what Grovo does with respect to that is we have about 4,500 videos on about 150 different digital tools and topics, and all of those are delivered through a Learnerfirst platform. So when we started out, we were actually much more of a pure learning company where we just had those videos, and then about a year and a half into the company's history, we got a lot of requests from larger enterprises like Wells Fargo and Chevron to create a centralized platform through which to create assignments and track learning and all the things that an LMS does. And actually, we didn't even know we were building an LMS at the time, because we kind of have the consumer learning in our DNA. And since then, we've become a full-on training solution. But we still have that learner first approach in our DNA, and that's kind of how we do everything. Now with the digital skills gap, with that focus, we've created a digital competency model that defines the 8 core skills the 8 core competencies that any digital worker would need to succeed in the workforce today. So 84% of the American workforce is a digital worker. That means they use a computer or a smart device for work. That percentage is about the same across the developed world. And then if you're trying to get a job at all or succeed in the workforce in the future, if you're a student now, you need a really strong digital skills base. So we've defined and broke. We're moving away from course-based training and learning to competency-based training and learning, because we really want to connect training to performance and what people are actually doing in their jobs. And some of these digital competencies are communication, working with documents, project management, collaboration, digital etiquette, attention management, things that apply to every single digital worker regardless of their role. And then from there, we're building out more specific competency models for specific professions.
Well, that sounds really, really exciting, and it sounds like something that's going along with a lot of the progressive stuff that we see going on in the industry. So if you want to learn more about what Grovo is doing, or about what any of the vendors are doing at DevLearn, please do visit us. Visit our website, devlearn14.com, for all the details. And you can visit Grovo and other vendors at our Expo Hall, taking place Wednesday and Thursday at DevLearn next week. I want to thank you so much, Alex, for joining me and having this conversation today.
Great. Thank you so much, David, and thanks for anyone who is joining in.
All right, and we will see you next week in Las Vegas for DevLearn 14. Take care, everybody.